Thank you, people. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and esteemed guests, for being here in spite of everything happening. All great things happening around World Economic Forum. We are super excited. We were the trending event of 2024. We are still trending event for 2025. And it is only possible with your help. And of course, the help and support of our sponsors, our media partners, for helping us amplify the message. And we have an incredible, mostly all-female team, media team, working day in and out to put the message out. So a big round of applause for our media team. And you are here because you love the content. And the content is the king. I say queen. And that is being possible, and a lot of effort, thought, and insights have gone into it in building that in partnership with our knowledge partner, Roland Berger.
Thank you.
And of course, Middle East is a region we are putting on the center stage. We are dedicating today's evening, calling it the Middle East Night. A Middle East Night does not mean Middle East music. It doesn't mean Middle East food. It means women who are powering and shaping the Middle East agenda. It means women who are putting the Middle East in the center of the global disruption. And that's what we exactly want to showcase in the Middle East Equality Moonshot. And we have some incredible women entrepreneurs, investors, and businesswomen who are doing it. But before that, while I was shaping this agenda, I had a good fortune in meeting, I'm going to pronounce your name really well, Dr. Najat Benshiha Shah Vinis, right? I tried. Sorry, I'm Indian, I'm trying to be American, I'm trying to be Swiss. It's so hard work, but people, you get it. The message, and I have a heart for this, okay? That's all matters. And she really helped me to understand the Middle East region, and she has been an expert of the Middle East region for many, many years. And I want to give her a warm welcome for introducing the session, why it is important to put the Middle East session in the center of the disruption. Thank you.
Rupa and I met in London a few months ago at a fantastic event at the House of Lords, so it's been an absolute honour to help shape and craft this Middle East session. So I'm honoured to be here today to open the Middle East Equality Moonshot session. I wish to thank with the greatest sincerity Rupa Dash and the organisers and sponsors for this excellent event at the World Woman Foundation here in beautiful Davos. I've written a speech for the first time because I think it's very important that I really sort of relay the main points and the theme of the narrative of the Middle East session. Today we stand at a pivotal moment in the evolution of women, both in business and society as a whole. Over the past few decades, we've witnessed remarkable strides in female representation across various sectors and industries, yet significant challenges remain. Women today are breaking barriers and shattering glass ceilings, taking on leadership roles that were once predominantly beyond their domain. This progress is largely attributed to policy changes advocating for diversity and inclusion. Governments and organizations are increasingly recognizing the importance of gender diversity, not only as a matter of equity, but also as a drive of innovation and financial performance. This has been factually proven time and time again. However, the journey is far from complete, as we will hear from my esteemed panelists today. Women still face numerous challenges, including gender bias, unequal pay, and limited access to work opportunities. These obstacles often hinder the advancement and can deter aspiring leaders in the very thin pipeline. Moreover, women of color and those from marginalized communities encounter additional layers of complexity emphasizing the need for intersectional approaches to diversity that are rooted in pragmatism to deliver the change we need. Yet, with challenges come opportunities. The growing emphasis on diverse leadership teams highlights the benefits of varied perspectives in decision-making processes. Companies with diverse boards are better equipped to understand and cater to a diverse consumer base, fostering creativity and adaptability in an ever-evolving marketplace such as the Middle East. In the region, for example, we are witnessing more women than ever before in C-suite positions, company owners, board members, and leaders in politics, and huge strides in advancement. To capitalize on these opportunities, we must continue to advocate for policies that promote equal representation. Initiatives such as mentorship programs, flexible work arrangements, and targeted training can empower women to thrive to enable them to catch up. Additionally, organizations should commit to transparent accountability measures to ensure progress towards gender parity. Many Middle Eastern countries have made substantial progress in such areas such as education, workforce mobilization, and more women are pursuing higher education than ever before, with female enrollment in universities across the GCC often surpassing that of males in some nations. This educational empowerment is translating into increased participation in the workforce, with women now holding positions in various fields, from business and politics to tech and healthcare. Governments across the region are also taking steps to promote gender equality. For instance, Saudi Arabia has introduced innovative reforms for women in business, while the UAE has launched initiatives to increase women on boards in leadership roles, particularly at the pan-board level. Such policy changes in this region signify a broader commitment to empowering women and recognizing their vital contributions to society. So, what are some of these challenges? I'll just whittle them down on the list. The ongoing challenges for women in achieving equality and diversity are multifaceted and deeply rooted in societal structures. Things such as gender bias and stereotypes, which are deeply ingrained stereotypes about gender roles, which continue to influence perceptions of women's capabilities. The gender pay gap. Despite progress, the gender pay gap persists across many industries across the world. Women often earn less than their male counterparts for similar roles, which affects their economic independence and career advancement. The work-life balance. Underrepresentation in leadership. Women are still underrepresented in senior roles and on corporate boards. And I've been campaigning for many, many years for board diversity across the GCC. This lack of representation limits diversity in decision-making and reinforces existing inequalities. What about access to opportunities, cultural and legal barriers, intersectionality? Despite these challenges, there are also significant opportunities for change. How do we address these? Creating a more equitable environment for women in business and society requires a multifaceted approach. For example, we can promote gender diversity in leadership. We can implement fair pay practices. Does your company implement fair pay practices? We can support work-life balance. Flexible work arrangements, such as remote work, flexible work, can help women balance professional and personal responsibilities. What about pension poverty? Are you aware that the majority of women suffer pension poverty because of the years taken out for maternity and child raising? What about fostering inclusive workplace cultures, creating an environment where diversity is celebrated and valued to empower women? What about enhancing access to education and training, investing in programs in your companies that provide women with skills, training, and professional development can empower them to create and compete in the workforce? A key area is engaging men as allies in the workplace and in society, because as you are well aware, men play a crucial role in promoting gender equity, such as advocating for policy changes, support policies that promote gender equality, family leave policies, anti-discrimination laws, and engaging with local and national policymakers that can help amplify these matters. Without policy change, we are really left adrift. And I think a key area is also how we measure and report progress, where organizations can track the progress on gender equality initiatives with KPIs, and sharing results transparently is key. Regular assessments on how your workforce is helping identify these areas for improvement and accountability is essential. So by implementing these strategies, we can create a more equitable landscape for women in business and society. Therefore, in closing, the advancement of women is not just a women's issue, it's a societal imperative. As we push for more inclusive policies and practices, we create a future where every individual, regardless of gender, can contribute to and benefit from our economy. Together, let's champion in the region and beyond this change and unlock the full potential of women in the workforce, particularly in the Middle East, as we'll hear this evening, and to foster and promote the advances already made in this significant area. In recent years, the Middle East is still ongoing in witnessing transformative changes in women's rights, driven by a combination of galvanized action, government initiatives, and shifting societal attitudes. I challenge you to help and promote one woman you know, and see the difference by Davos 2026. This could be through funding, mentoring, promoting, or supporting. If one ally does this, the domino effect would be life-changing. So thank you very much, and I look forward to our esteemed panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Ringier. Please stay with us. My name is Katarzyna Gaweł, and I'm Head of Diversity, Equity and Inclusion at Ringier Schweiz Polska, media and technology company. I'm also co-host of Forbes Women podcast because I believe that there is not enough voice of female experts in media, and I believe that you can be what you can see. So I would love, and I am doing on daily basis, I love show in media more female leaders, because how can my daughter can see herself to become a president, a prime minister, or a businesswoman when she doesn't see so many role models in media, or predominantly male ones. So, thank you for your opening remarks, because you did half of my work regarding panel preparation. And I would like to ask to the stage other panelists. So, Yalda Łukar, co-founder and managing partner Bracket Capital. Yalda, yeah. Noor Sweet, founder and managing partner Global Ventures. And Sima, founder and chairwoman Apparel Group. Please join us. Okay, this is the last panel. I think that we'll celebrate after the panel the very first day of our success of our conference. But until then, Najat, thank you for the remarks once again. Could you please elaborate on your personal view on gender equality situation in the Middle East, basing on your personal experience? Because we've heard many insightful data, but what about your personal experience?
Thank you, Kasia. That's a very valid question, because as you're well aware, many women have a lived experience, and it's the lived story which is the most compelling and has a very resonant narrative for the audience. So my background is I'm Moroccan. I was born and raised in the UK and had my education in the UK. So I come from a family of very strong Arab values. I was an academic, my family felt the importance of education was imperative for a young Arab lady in the UK and Morocco. And I've lived in different countries, experienced different cultures, worked in different corporations, and I've been privileged to see firsthand the growth and development of women in business, and also to witness firsthand as well the less glamorous side of trying to make it in the working world. So looking at lack of parental leave, seeing firsthand how women who go on to have children have to pay the maternity penalty, how women who are bypassed for career progression and promotion, how women have also been overlooked for increase in pay, equal pay, and not really having a voice on the board level. So that's why in my own personal lived experience, I've been campaigning for board diversity across the Gulf and Middle East in general. And I'm very pleased to say that working with certain governments in the Gulf, there's been a huge change. And as a driver for the catalyst for change, it's been life-changing for many women across the Middle East in terms of having the voice, the visibility, board transparency, because at board level, it sets the scene and sets the tone for the corporations themselves. It's been a generational change. We still have work to do because we still have a paucity of representation across leadership, and critically the pipeline is very thin. So as I often say that once women make it to a certain level, we must throw down the ladder for other girls to come up and support them and mentor them, which I do very gladly and happily on a pro bono basis. So for example, I've spent the last 4 or 5 years mentoring young Arab women who are trying to sit the Oxbridge placements university tests. So I interview them and give them the tests every year, and I'm very proud that when they achieve their dream of going to Oxford or Cambridge. So yeah, my own lived experience has been a galvanizing element for me and for others in my ecosystem, which is very important.
Thank you. I don't live in the Middle East. I live in Poland, but for instance, I was fired after having my first child because I was told by my female boss that the company couldn't afford another maternity leave, and I was only 3 months maternity leave. Yeah, and I worked till the very end of my pregnancy, so I can feel it. Thank you, Najat. Yalda, how? Because I want to continue personal experience, because I really love such stories. Sima knows it already because we had an interview, and I asked her also about her starting her company. Yalda, how has growing up in the Middle East shaped who you are professionally? Have you ever felt out of place as an Arab woman working in a Gulf, not only in a male-dominated industry, but also in a patriarchal society?
Wow, that's a very good question. I should take it up with my therapist. Well, I guess I'll start with the second part of your question. I'm not sure which is worse, the patriarchal society of the Middle East or the chauvinistic, MAGA-wearing, hat, a Trump-adoring society of Silicon Valley that I have to interact with on a constant basis. But it's hard everywhere. I started my career in 2008 in investment banking. There you were judged by the number of hours that you had to put in, FaceTime over the weekend, the number of swear words that you could say on a trading floor. Then I started my career in 2013 in private equity in the Gulf, and that had its own entire set of different challenges. You would arrive, I would be the only woman in the boardroom in a sea of men in white thob, the traditional dress of the Gulf, but that wasn't even the issue that I was the only woman in the boardroom. The issue was that the main decisions would not be taken in those boardrooms. They would happen in the majlis after work, where by design women were not invited into the conversation. And then I started my career I launched Bracket in 2017 in the VC world. And there, I had to work 10 times harder to prove myself over and over again as a reliable counterpart, be able to access the deals and the companies and the rounds, because between men, a handshake agreement is sufficient, but with women, you're set to entirely different standards. So I think ultimately what I learned to do is disassociate myself with my gender and kind of morph into the specialty that I represent. So my investors no longer saw me as the woman investment advisors. They would see me as the capital allocator that's getting them successfully into these amazing companies and proving herself with outsized returns and becoming one of the best performing fund in their portfolio. And for my counterparts in the VC industries for access and deal flow, they would sell me as someone reliable who would never back out of a commitment. To your first part about growing up in the Middle East, yeah, I always say Beirut was my second mother. I don't know if that's a good analogy, but I think that growing up in a region that is so unstable, and when you have chaos and volatility, just makes you so much more comfortable with risk. And I think that's also why I naturally gravitated to the world of venture capital. And whenever things get too comfortable, I think I'm the type of person to self-sabotage, which is not necessarily a good thing. I had an amazing career in private equity. I was at the top of my game. I was 8 months pregnant, and I told my husband, I'm leaving the Gulf. I want to set up my own VC in Los Angeles, and I had no capital. All I had was an idea, and he told me, it's not called a hunch. It's called hormones. You're 8 months pregnant. You're not supposed to do this. Wait it out, but I still did it. And I raised my first fund in between breastfeeding, and I think there's a lot of women in this room, you can all relate, in between breastfeeding and mastitis and figuring out how a newborn works for the first time. I went out and raised my first fund. Yeah, 3 years later, I raised my second. 3 years after that, I raised my third, by the way, perfectly synchronized with my 3 kids. And now we've deployed over $1.5 billion in capital. I think it makes us at Bracket one of, I say this because as an Arab woman, it makes me particularly proud. Another Arab woman here in the same space, which is my idol. I follow her on Instagram. She's my girl crush, but we won't go there. I'm just saying this because women are incredibly strong, and I'm so energized and inspired by the women here because I think that all of us are breaking glass ceilings so that the future generation no longer has to struggle with the same patriarchal issues that we had to struggle with.
All of you are my role models now. You know, when I hear your stories, because last year I heard the story of Sima, and I was so inspired when I hear your stories. Sorry, Sima. you are as inspired, as inspirational as other women sitting here. So thank you very much, Yalda. And last year you were in Davos with your child.
No, I came to Davos in 2020 with a 6-week-old. I do not recommend it to anyone.
But you also took part in the panel discussion, and it was great.
I came for a panel discussion on online child safety because I also preside over our foundation, and we do a lot of work on making the internet safer for kids.
Amazing, amazing. Congratulations. Noor, we will celebrate your book later on, and we have some copies, so the lucky, lucky people, lucky ones, I don't know, how do you deal with the copies? How do you...
I think
how do you choose people who will get it?
Whoever chooses the book.
I've got dibs. You got dibs. Okay. But before that, please tell me, because you are a founder and managing partner of Global Ventures, what are the biggest challenges businesswomen face in accessing funding in the Middle East, and how can we address it? And how many women do you already supported with your company, with your funds?
Great questions, and we're not a gender lens fund, so we invest in men and women. I'll go back to kind of a little bit of history, which is similarly, I first started my career in consulting, and when I was in business school, I did my MBA at Sloan. We were 17% female, so from the beginning of the career, it's this low percentage, so it never bothered me. I think I first realized that I was a woman and that actually made a difference after I IPO'd our family business and I was on the cover of Arabian Business. And that was in 2008. I was 28 years old. And it wasn't the story of, this is the world's largest interior company, 9,500 people, $600 million in revenue. We had scaled 10x in 3 years. It wasn't the story of IPOing on the LSE, the first company from the region to do that. It wasn't any of these stories. It was the story that I was the first Arab woman to IPO a company. That was what was interesting. And that's when I was like, wait, all of these other accomplishments, creating 9,500 jobs, are irrelevant because of my gender? And so that was really interesting and eye-opening. As an entrepreneur, I built a chain of yoga studios, which I scaled and sold. Again, not really thinking about being a woman. So it started to come to me later in life. And I think the moments that it really started to bother me. So this is it. And then I raised, out of Fund 1, which ended up being $50 million, I got to $45 million without a single female LP. And that's kind of when the light bulb hit. And I was like, wait, I have loads of friends. And a lot of them are very, very wealthy and independently wealthy, right? And partners at VC firms and partners at consulting firms. And so I messaged them all and said, okay, ladies, I'm at 45. We have wonderful institutions. We have the world's best names, et cetera. Why aren't you all investing? And what if I removed the minimum? The minimum was $1 million. So I said, what if we had no minimum? So I said, instead of a minimum of $1 million invested, I want the minimum requirement to be a 2-hour lecture on what it is we do. And so we set up 2 schedules. I said it's either this time or that time, because I realized that it's like when women walk into art galleries and we see the prices, whatever, like $50,000. We don't ask if we can buy it for 30 and then offer 20 and have the artist take 15, right? We're like, it's 50, it's 50. And so ultimately we raised a few $1 million in that fund from these female LPs, checks from $50,000 up to $2 million. And then the next fund became a lot more female LPs. And I said, okay, we need to change the game for the female LPs. They had no idea that there's multiple drawdowns. They had no idea. They don't want to ask stupid questions. So it started really changing the narrative around, it's more about female LPs than female founders. Right? We have, at the top of the funnel, we really focus on getting women in there. 30% of our investments, or 28% of our investments, are in female founders, which is more, I think, twice the global average, depending on the year, maybe a little bit more. But ultimately, I want more women to be investing in venture. This is the fastest growing, like tech is the fastest growing part of anything in the world, and women have their money on the sidelines. So that's my personal journey as it relates to fundraising.
Amazing, really. And I think that this, investing in ventures can be an answer also for pension poverty that affects mainly women, as we've heard. So thank you. Sima, I believe that almost everyone heard your story, so maybe we move from your personal story to your personal, let's say, thoughts, I would say. So my question would be, when you think about leading the equality moonshot, what's the bold idea that keeps you awake at night? And an idea you believe you can change the game called gender equality.
So, thank you, and thank you for the interview earlier as well. It's an absolute honor to be on this panel with all of these accomplished, beautiful women. I do wish I had Yelda's legs to just climb up on the stage rather than having to go through the steps. Thank you, Yelda, for that. I think after listening to Noor, I've been toying with the idea of writing a book, and I always wonder what would I call a book that I wrote about, whether it was about teaching women or young girls on how to not listen to people when they say no, or to just be bold and be different and be disruptive, and there's nothing wrong with it. And I actually have a title in my head, if I may share. I'm going to call it Grow a Pair. Why is that a phrase in English? Why is, having guts called grow a pair? We don't have them. So what are women supposed to grow if they want to have guts? Right?
I'm speechless, sorry.
I just think that, literally everything out there is connected to men. It's mankind. It's not womankind. Like I said, the statement I just made earlier. So where do women really fit in? Where do we think we stand? And we're only allowed to stand if they let us. Like literally, in the Middle East, where I grew up as well since 1975, your father or your husband had to, at that time, allow you to travel. You had to have a no objection certificate from your husband or your father letting you travel. Basic rights were dependent on the man in your family saying, yes, she's allowed to do this. Permission giving is such an inbuilt part of the society that we grew up in or we live in. So when does that change? That changes when girls turn around and don't accept no. And I think we owe it to ourselves to actually give up on wanting and craving approval. I'll tell you a very silly, funny story. Nothing as, what should I say? Nothing as substantial as what these ladies have shared. A very, very silly anecdote. I have a toothbrush from Oral-B. And my husband's sitting right there wondering, why is she talking about her toothbrush? So I bought this, my PA bought me this new toothbrush. And the first time I used it, I realized the damn thing judges me. If I don't cross 2 minutes of brushing, it has a sad face. And then once I cross 2 minutes of brushing, it has starry eyes and a smile.
I have the same one.
You have the same one, right? What is it about us craving approval? Oh my God, like it wasn't enough that I had one at home. I went ahead and told my PA, actually buy me one when I travel as well. I don't know, I got addicted to it. I want to see those starry eyes and that smiley face telling me I did a good job. But what is that? What is that, women? It is us saying my dad should tell me I did a good job. I want my husband to tell me I did a good job. Bloody hell, I even want my kids to tell me I did a good job. It's like we're forever craving approval and asking, how are we doing this? When does that stop? I can't remember the last time a single man in this room can turn around and tell me he craved approval. He turned around and said to his wife, please tell me today I did a good job. They don't care. They really don't care. And why do we? Why do we? They walk out in 2 different stripe-colored clothes, maybe mismatched shoes and socks, and they don't care. Yet we spend hours making sure we show up looking like we want to feel confident through the way you see us. So why do we care? So when you say to me, what's a game changer? Teaching girls not to give a flying and grow a pair.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Fantastic story about the toothbrush. Okay.
Can I interject quickly?
Yeah.
There's a great book. Has anyone here read The Feminine Mistake? Okay, I have one hand at the back because you're on my team, but that's kind of. So it's a fantastic book that was sent to me many, many years ago, pre-publishing. And I guess it was 16 years ago because it was before I had my first child and I hadn't even thought about having kids. But it's the largest ever longitudinal study of women that went to top business schools and other schools. So type A women. So they've said this is about type A women. So if you're born with that itch to actually do something all the time and kind of perfectionist, etc. But one of the and I would highly recommend reading it because they divided the women into 2 cohorts: those that stopped working after the children and those that continued working after children. And why would you stop working? Here are the top 5 reasons. I'm worried about depression. I'm worried about my health, my marriage, blah, blah, blah. And then they went on. You should read the book. I won't, spoiler alert here if you want to cover your ears. But it's effectively like all these metrics that you were worried about and therefore stopped working actually are worse if you stop working for all these different reasons. So it's really the data science behind should you, shouldn't you. But the last chapter is exactly what you talked about. So the last chapter changed my life. And until I read this book, I always thought when I have kids, I'm going to stop working. I read this book, I'm like, I'm never going to stop working. Because I'm like, because I would laugh out loud, like, oh my God, that's so me. I could like stay up until 4 a.m. making the perfect cupcake for the bake sale because that would become my identity, right? So ultimately, and we've all seen it. You fix your child's science project after they go to bed because you have the time and this is really important. The last chapter is called Being Good Enough. And it talks a lot about the young girl conditioning to perfection and the young boy conditioning to just you go out, get dirty, come back all muddy, it's fine. C'est la vie. All right? And so that young conditioning doesn't go away as we grow up. We continue to measure ourselves to a point of perfection. Right? And if my child walks out with 1 red sock and 1 yellow sock, I feel like I failed as a mother. Whereas it's actually fine. Right? So there's whole psychology around being good enough rather than raising young girls to a standard of Barbie, right, is where it needs to change. And so anyway, it's a fascinating book. Anyone's up for reading it. Book is called Coming of Age. It is not about me. It is about the coming of age of the Middle East and North Africa. It's 35 incredible founder stories. It starts with what is Mina, because I feel that the whole world in the last 4 years has kind of discovered that there was something between India and Africa. and everyone suddenly wants to know about the GCC and the region and what's happening. And so it's the story of technology and entrepreneurship across this part of the world over the last 15 years. It's stories from the founder of Souk, which is now Amazon, the founders of Kariman, which is now Uber, what it was like to do entrepreneurship then, all the way to then fintech, health tech, ed tech, agri-tech, supply chain tech, and then AI, crypto, and energy, so looking ahead. And each of these chapters has 4 or 5 incredible stories. The reason we picked these sectors, these are the sectors that are game-changing in terms of equality, in terms of lack of infrastructure. So we were 85% unbanked 6 years ago. We're 55% unbanked today. Nobody built banks. So it's really how when you bring technology into sectors that don't have legacy incumbents, you can create, you can innovate, you can provide better economic prosperity for entire populations. So there are founders that have inspired me. Their stories haven't been told. The story about the region hasn't been told. There's a little bit of history in there. I tried not to make it dull. But there's a lot of Arab culture anecdotes in there that people might enjoy reading. So words like inshallah, the concept of being late is not actually being late, the fluidity of time, and things that we all generally identify as. So that's the book.
That's the book. And do you know that? Okay, so ladies, let's wrap up. So second tour and till the end. Dr. Najat, I think I will change the question. What would be your message when I've heard Nuria? So what would be your message to women in the Middle East to inspire them to be more active, even if they have children, to be more courageous, to be less perfectionist? Oh, sorry. Okay. What would be your message? Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be a bit contrarian at the moment because there's been a big change across the Middle East for women in business, women in education, etc. And at the moment, we are witnessing a succession change in terms of the family offices, wealth transfer, and a lot of it's being passed from the patriarch to the daughter. And I think in this day and age, women in the Middle East have higher amounts of disposable income than ever before. So they rightfully have access to invest and become LPs, limited partners, in funds, in projects, etc. Women more than ever before have amazing tertiary education. Women are entrepreneurs. Women are leaders in their fields. So I think we've the tide is shifted. Basically, the dial has been moved. It's taken many years to get to this place, but I think we are in a very, very interesting era for women in the Middle East. But it doesn't mean that we can just rest on our laurels. We have a lot more work to do. So I think that the legacy that women today are leaving is extraordinary, and also for their daughters as well. So I think that there is also a bit of a stigma attached to women in the region who are seen as subservient, who are seen as second class. But having lived across multiple countries in the Middle East, I lived in Casablanca, Cairo, Riyadh, Abu Dhabi, Dubai. There's been a huge change, and I'm very proud of today's woman in the Middle East, today's Arab woman. They've made huge strides in their fields, industry sectors. My panelists are testament to that with their backgrounds and achievements. So I think that we've achieved so much, but we have a lot more to do.
So let's continue with this progress. Yeah? Yarda, that's interesting because this is a question about differences between men and women, sort of. So I personally believe that building networks and relationships is critical for the success of any business. And maybe it's risky, but I think that men are generally better in using the, for instance, private connections, private relations for professional reasons. We are sometimes too ashamed to do it. How did you use your network, your connections to be in the place where are you now?
Yeah, I like to tell the story of how I started my career, because I feel like it defied many odds and it went against many expectations, and it speaks a lot to everything that you're referencing here. So I was working in investment banking in London, and I recently got engaged, and my husband moved to Qatar to work there. So effectively, I needed Morgan Stanley to pay for my business class ticket so I could go and see my husband. So I Googled top 10 businessmen in Qatar, and I sold them in true Lebanese style on a business plan that I was related to absolutely everyone, and that I was going to grow the market for them, and they believed it, as true American bankers would. And then they were like, okay, the only thing you need to do is write call notes and log them into the system. So I arrived in Doha. It was 2010. I knew no one. I literally knew no one. I was given the number of one private banker at Credit Suisse, and you probably dealt with private bankers. They're notoriously territorial. They will never make an introduction, and they'll never tell you, go and meet this person. The only thing that the banker did do is he gave me his driver, and he's like, my driver will drop you back at your hotel. Don't waste your time in Doha. Go to Dubai, go to Kuwait. That's where all the money is. And then in the car, from the car ride from Tornado Tower to the W Hotel where I was staying, I had a eureka moment. And I took the business card of the driver, the Nepali driver that was, taking me around. And I called the agency that he was working for, and I'm like, look, I'm here for 5 days. Can you send me the same driver? And they're like, okay, yeah, sure. He's not busy tomorrow. We'll send you. We'll send you this person. He arrives the next morning. I'm like, look, I have no idea where I'm going, but you're going to drive me to all the places you're driving the Credit Suisse bankers to. And then this guy has no clue where he's going, obviously, because he's just given a list of addresses. And this is pre-Google Maps, by the way, and Doha 2010 is very different from Doha 2024, 2025. So we would be driving in the desert. For all I knew, I could have been abducted by this person. And then we would arrive, there's like a palace and a gate. And the driver pulls down my window, and I'm like, I'm here to see the sheikh. Like, super proud. Because obviously, that's a palace. Someone important must be living here. And the guys would panic. They're like, yeah, but you're not on the list of invitees. And then I would show them my business card that said London. And I'm like, I flew all the way from London to meet the sheikh. And I would fake a call that my analyst self did not have to, a fake assistant, and be like, oh, I'm at the Sheikh's palace and they're not letting me in. Eventually, they would let me in. And eventually, I would meet someone. If I was lucky, I would meet the Sheikh. If I was, otherwise I would meet his CFO, a chief of staff. I would meet his kids sometimes because, it was their house. I would meet the wife, and I would always sit down and have coffee. And the first 30 minutes of our conversation was never about business. It was about the kids, it was about the weather, it was about the transformation of Doha, it was about, the men, as Norma was saying earlier, holding my hand, telling me, are you married? No. Do you have kids? No. We will pray for you. Because obviously there must be something wrong with the universe if, by the age of 30 I didn't have any kids. Anyways, long story short, and to your question, I think there's a stereotypical way of networking, which is something that men do. I think that women are very talented networking in a different way, which is developing really strong, meaningful connections, not just superficial networking, to the point where the people that you're developing those relationships with become your fans, they become your champions, and they start rooting for you, and they want to participate in your success. So then they start making the introductions. They start referring you to their network, which is high quality at that point because it's a network that's based on trust. It's a network that's based on authenticity. It's a network that's based on something really genuine. And in my opinion, that's the way that we should champion things, and not the traditional way of like spray and network with anyone. And you scratch my back, I scratch your back, and we'll see how it goes.
So let's build our network during these two days of the conference, because the network will build our future for sure. Sima, very last question. Leadership often comes down to key decision in defining moments. Can you share a story of a time when you faced a challenge in advocating for gender equality and you overcame it?
So I want to change that narrative. I don't want to talk about a time when I was less than or I was unequal. I actually want to talk about a time I was more than, and I was unequal but more in a superior way. And I'm going to compare myself to my brother. So my brother had an arranged marriage. I had a love marriage. I do consider it superior because I got to choose my partner. He had to go with someone that my parents suggested. I built my own business from scratch. I'm in Davos. He's never been to Davos. I've been on Shark Tank, Dubai Bling, and spoken on several global platforms. He hasn't. So I want to actually say...
Do you love your brother?
Very much so. We're very, very different. All I'm saying is he was chosen to stay in the family business, and that worked out really well for him. He's done really well for himself. He's built it up. He's done a great job. However, having been told that I can't be a part of the family business, starting my own actually was a favor for me, which I'm grateful for. You know, I'm grateful to my father, I'm grateful to my brother for making that opportunity happen, and of course I'm grateful to my husband for joining me and building it up with me. So I just think that not all stories about being unequal have to be about you being inferior. Sometimes they're about you being superior. And in fact, you know, while I was sitting there listening to a lot of what Dr. Najat was saying, I was thinking to myself, every woman now should actually have a jar. You know how you have a swear jar for kids? I think you should have a jar where every time you talk down to yourself, you need to put money in there and then go buy a nice piece of jewelry.
Or invest in Bitcoin.
Or invest in Bitcoin.
So let's look for opportunities, not.
Absolutely. I think the narrative has to change. How many more times are we going to go through this, I'm a victim, this happened to me? I tell my kids this all the time. You have two options. Either life happens to you or you make life happen. Which one would you rather be? How disempowering to go through life thinking, life happened to me, this happened to me. What about saying, actually, I'm going to make this happen? I mean, a prime example of this for me, and I cannot tell you how super proud I am to be in a room where I have Ayati, Rupa's daughter. I have taken her around and introduced her to all kinds of people, because to have a 12-year-old help her mother organize this since the last 3 years is phenomenal for me. That, you know, when you were asking me in my interview, Kati, that who's a role model, that's a role model. That's the one that she should be up here on stage telling young girls how to do what she does.
And she was last year on the stage, yeah? She was, yeah, I don't remember. This year also, yeah. Thank you very much. Still, I would say that you are my role models. All of you are my role models, ladies. Rupa, you too. Thank you very much. Thank you for the first day, and I will give the stage to you, Rupa, right now. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
I think this panel was everything that we wanted throughout the day. It gave us entertainment, it gave us inspiration, and also new ideas to think about how can we disrupt the future. Okay. This is the most important thing. We look good.
We enjoyed the panel, you enjoyed the photo.
I don't know where to look.
You all look good.
But we haven't ended the session. Probably I have a few things to do before we end the Middle East session. Yeah, but we you can.
I can leave the stage.
Yeah, we can leave the stage. Yes, of course. There's a lot of surprise.
Are we leaving?
Yeah.
Yes, you can leave.
Thank you. We cannot end the Middle East session without celebrating an incredible woman who has shaped not only the narrative for Middle East, but also changing the narrative how we see in the global context, how she is shaping, in general, the power of a woman. And I have written so many things about her, but I think in essence, she is the boss. She is telling everything that is tweetable, and I see that when she's speaking, people are tweeting. And there is a power in our words, how we can, inspire, ignite new ideas, and even think people inspire people to do beyond what is possible. And with my great pleasure, every year we select very handful of few women from around the world to honor them with the World Woman Hero Award. And this award we have given in the past to the Prime Minister of New Zealand, the first female Prime Minister of New Zealand, Ms. Helen Clark, to Diane Warren, who has been nominated for at least 15 times for Grammys and is an honorary Oscar winner. And this year, this award must go, and I think we all agree, it should go to our very own World Women Hero of 2025, Miss Sima Wed. And I would like, and we have came to this conclusion with after a lot of discussion. And I would like to invite Maria Michaelenko from the global managing partner from Roland Berger to present this award along with me.
You stay in between of us.
I'll stay in the middle. Thank you.
You guys can clap and make us feel happy.
Thank you for this. Thank you.
Sima, we cannot leave you without hearing your words because they are gem, they're gold, they're diamond, I don't know, there's everything. Let me give you the mic.
I have one.
Oh, you got it.
So, thank you, Rupa. That's, it's honestly, it's a real honor. And it's extremely kind of you to do this. I did share in the morning, I only discovered Davos because of you. You invited me to speak last year, and now this year I brought my entire team and I'm here to attend the conference. So thank you for that. You've helped open eyes, you've helped, transform a lot of us with the kind of panels that you put forward. And like I said, for me, the biggest achievement is to meet your daughter. So to have a female young role model in the room telling us how it should be done is enormous for me because I have 2 daughters and I have a son. And I hope to bring my son next year as a youth leader with yours. So that would be fantastic. I cannot leave the stage without thanking, I cannot leave the stage without thanking the 2 men in my life who made this possible. My husband, who kindly walked here from the hotel in the cold. Thank you for that, Nilesh Ved. And my father. I think without the 2 of them, I would not be the woman I am. So for all their approval and for all my craving their approval, I hope it never stops. So
And
thank you.
And can we have Mr. Ved on stage for a photo opportunity? Thank you for coming. No,
Maria.
she's my helper.
I know she's but she's my role model.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enjoy
Once
the
again.
rest of the evening.